If you follow some big name outdoor photographers on Instagram, you've always wondered what goes into making their photos so dang good. We grabbed a couple of guys internally who are big outdoor photographers themselves here, Erik and Wyatt Cole, to talk all about cameras, lenses, perspectives, telling stories, and even getting some of that stuff with your own iPhone too, and not necessarily like a nice mirrorless camera like they use. So check this one out, and as usual, let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I've got Jim to my right. We've got first-time guest Wyatt sitting across from us. We've got Erik, frequent guest, sitting across from us as well. Now, we live in the digital age. We are surrounded by images constantly, whether it's social, anything else, right? We all know a good picture when we see it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Today's podcast topic, Jim, which I know you're aware because we planned this together, we're going to talk about photography and what the heck goes into making a good image, which is why we have Erik and Wyatt across the table, because these guys are...
Specifically kind of outdoor photography, you know, especially like the hunt side of things, really especially, I'd say. Not that there aren't a lot of like good shooting related photographers out there, but
documenting the intricacies of the hunt.
Yes.
Capturing experiences.
Via
a camera.
At probably a higher level than average. You know, what it takes to get into being an outdoor photographer. Maybe I could have started with that.
I would say so.
Should we take it a third time?
Let's do it.
Seems legit.
No.
No. Okay, second time's the charm in this case.
Yep.
Wyatt, you got to tell people who you are first.
My name's
Introduce
Wyatt.
yourself.
Wyatt Cole. I work here with you guys, luckily. It's a pretty good time.
Hi, Wyatt.
Hey, Rick. Grew up not too far from Rick, actually. Did you guys know that?
No, wait, what?
Grew up like an hour away from Rick.
Yep.
Serious?
Yeah.
Iowa
for real.
Rick. Yeah.
Iowa.
Rick. Yeah.
Your Iowa life.
Wait,
Yep.
you grew up not too far from Iowa Rick.
Yeah.
Iowa Rick.
Not
Yep.
Child Rick.
Yep.
Not Child Rick.
Yep.
Iowa Rick.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
And you are, would you consider yourself a photographer? I would when I look at your Instagram account.
I mean, yeah, I do some small stuff. I mean, I work with a couple of companies. Like, primarily, I just do it for fun, though. Like,
right.
I've never been too serious about, like, trying to propose myself as a, like, professional photographer, because I don't, like, have the, like, time, dedication, things that come into being a really good photographer. There's a lot of stuff that comes into it, as you know, obviously, Rick. I mean, it has to be, it's like a full-time thing if you want to be a real professional photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guys that are super good, like Stephen Drake, Austin Thomas. It's what they do for a living. It's awesome.
Yep.
Right. You got to go full send.
Yeah. Full send.
I imagine
Only full send.
I would speculate, too, there's a pretty good starving period there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the thing is that I've noticed, like anybody looked at your guys' accounts, right? So you're Erik, you're on Instagram. What is it, Erik Barber 8?
Yep.
What's the 8 for?
High school football number.
Hell yeah.
You were number 8. Weren't
Yep.
you like a running back? Were you a quarterback?
Wide receiver and defensive back.
Okay.
Yep.
So was I,
For
but I
number
was
8, huh?
82. So where did you get 8?
Drop the 2. I like them single digits, baby.
The curious thing about
It
this,
was a
though,
trend.
the curious thing about this, how old are you right now? You're
28.
Still
You're 28.
living back in the glory days.
Well, and he created his Instagram account 2 weeks ago.
And then Wyatt, yours is Wyatt Cole Hunt, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Cool.
Much
No
cooler.
spaces, dots, nothing like
Yep.
that. But if anyone were to look at your guys' accounts, they'd be like, holy crap, these are awesome. And then, you know, and that's where a lot of folks out there, I'm going to speak out just from what I know for myself, is that a lot of times I have these grandiose ideas in my head of going out and doing whatever I'm going to be doing, whether it's even just shed hunting, you know, obviously the time of the year right now is around shed hunting time, or going on a super sweet hunt, whatever it is. And I always think to myself, I'm going to get some super sick photos out here, you know, really capture the, my wife always says, capture the memes.
Yep,
Just
yep.
it bugs the hell out of me when she says it. Anyway, she doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's fine. But she always said, you know, capturing the memes. But you get these sweet images. You can look back and you can remember a really awesome time, place, scene, whatever. And when I go out and I don't have a fancy camera. I've got my iPhone, right? Which I know maybe even something we'll get into is the iPhones these days can take incredible photos. Especially I've got the one with the 3 cameras on it, the one that scares Mark a little
With 3
bit.
lenses, how can you go wrong?
Exactly.
More the better.
More lenses.
Yeah.
But I take photos and they look like crap. And then every time I go back and I look at your guys' photos on your Instagram pages, I'm like, how the heck do they get such good photos? And it's
They're stunning.
The quality. It's the quality of the photos. It's also just how they're set up. There's so many times where I'm like, oh, that would be a really sweet shot, and then I take it and I'm like, why doesn't it look cool? And I didn't get the perspective right. It's not symmetrical looking.
Yeah.
What do you got? How do you guys get the eye for this when you're out there? How have you gotten to this point where you can take a good photo?
I'll let you weigh in on this too, but part of my thoughts on this is the number one thing is you got to have a camera on you at that time. So like one of my favorite pictures I took all fall was one that I took in my truck on my way home from work. I drive through an area where there's a lot of deer, and just having that camera like on me all the time, like you said, how many times have you seen something that's very cool? It's like, man, that'd be an awesome photo, but all I got is my phone, or like you don't really have anything to capture it, you know?
Well, and then also you're talking about wildlife. I would say that's definitely something that we have. You know, you're hunting, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They're not going to stand around forever. Like you literally have an instantaneous moment to be able to capture that moment.
Yeah.
Yep. So step 1, I think, is just having the camera on you, and step 2 is like having that kind of creative eye and understanding like lenses and stuff. That's where I definitely want you to come in here. It's like lenses compress space and all that stuff to create a composition rather than just like snapping an image and hoping, you know, that it turns out. So if you want to weigh in on that too.
Yeah, man. I mean, you covered definitely the really important basics. Having your camera strapped to your hip at all times. Like I take it everywhere with me.
What kind of cameras do you guys do? Like DSLRs or like the old point and shoot, the old MyPix with an X?
Anything with an X is good. I have so we have
Cool Pics. That's
Cool
what
Pics.
it was.
Yep,
Pics.
Nikon
Pentax,
Cool Pics.
print out,
Yes.
point and shoot.
Yeah, what about
print your photo?
the cardboard ones?
Yeah, like the ones from SpongeBob.
I think we're both shooting on mirrorless cameras, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So like in the cool thing with like DSLRs is, you know, a few years ago, like the DSLR body was kind of the big trend. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And you know, here just recently in the last 2 to 3 years, we kind of saw that mirrorless trend pick up.
Yeah, it was like the snap of your fingers. Like every big photographer was like mirrorless.
So if you look at a mirrorless camera body and compare it to your iPhone, like just the body, not the lens, it's actually probably very similar size, just
In
a little bit.
dimensions, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So very small, very lightweight. They do really well in low light because they just have less.
They don't have that reflective sensor.
Yeah, they don't have. It takes that mirror out of the equation.
It's the mirror that's in the equation in DSLR. It's like
So you're like, imagine when you're taking that photo, it's like, here's how your image is projected off the mirror, out your lens. Mirrorless, straight out of the camera through your lens.
Yeah. So image comes into a DSLR, comes in through the lens, it bounces off a mirror to the sensor.
Yeah.
And then on a mirrorless, that mirror isn't there, so it's straight to the sensor.
Yep.
So you said a little bit better in low light because you're removing the middleman.
Yep. Exactly.
Factory direct.
Way more efficient. Yeah.
They're lighter and they're smaller.
Are they more durable? Because I'm imagining if you just have more parts in there.
I mean, I don't know like technical specs, what's rated and whatnot. I know Stephen Drake had like an A7 R3 on a trip in Alaska, like fell into a stream and it was extremely cold. It was still running water, but he like dropped his camera in there, threw it up, hit the bank, rolled back into the stream, swam over and like threw it out into the snow. Put it in a bag of rice for like a week and it worked.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's an electronic device.
Yeah.
The unique
That doesn't
thing
happen every day.
that I think, you know, is an important caveat with the mirrorless system, like especially if you're switching lenses a lot and if you're out in the field, that mirror is literally right under the lens. So it is a little bit trickier. Like they are definitely more susceptible to getting dirty or getting like what people call a lens spot. So that would be like
Which one is the mirrorless ones are?
the mirrorless ones are.
Oh, because there's nothing between the sensor.
Exactly.
So
And
you're running into more potential for like a little bit of error there.
So if you've ever watched a TV show or like watched or looked at a photo and there's like this weird spot that stays in one place on your TV screen, the videographer, if they're filming on a mirrorless, they probably have a little piece of dust or something that's actually captured because I didn't,
Sure.
blow the dust off or clean it up or anything like that.
Interesting.
So
Gotcha. But you're talking about a size and weight thing. I mean, packing for any hunt. I mean, size and weight. Those are always two big considerations, and if you can save on both those, it sounds like that mirrorless option is a good one.
Yeah. How much, when I think of maybe Mark and I are the greatest examples because we overpack a lot, as people have seen. But how much space in your pack when you're going on a hunt are you dedicating towards camera stuff? I mean, do you wind up having to make big sacrifices on the rest of your stuff in order to fit that camera gear in there?
I'll let you take this one.
Go?
Nope,
all right.
That's all you.
Judging from one of our last hunts together, I do know Erik will sacrifice the food first, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to eat for 7 days, but I'll take pictures while I'm there.
Yep.
If it gets me a couple more Instagram followers,
Exactly.
I'll tell you what.
Hey, do it for the gram,
For the
baby.
gram.
That's right.
For the weight thing and dedicating your pack size to it, like I don't think there's been a single hunt in the last couple years that I haven't taken my stuff, like my rig with and everything that I have with it. I'd say a really large fraction of your pack size, probably a quarter. When you're talking like comparing to your clothes and everything, like I'm no backcountry hunter. Like I just went on my first one this last year, but I still, like even when talking with Ryan, the expert, like still took my 5-pound, super telephoto lens, my 150-600, all my batteries, my other lens, like everything. So it was a lot of weight. It was 10 pounds worth of stuff for sure.
Yeah.
On a backcountry hunt that I knew nothing about. And that's what I take with me every time when I go to a tree stand.
Yeah.
So like when whitetail season rolls around, you're like both lenses, body, spare batteries, rattling antlers, your bow, your extra camo, any snacks, your optics.
Camo for your camo.
Where do you have room left? Yeah, camo for your camo. I mean,
All
you're running
has
out
to
of room.
match, by the way. Like the other thing, lenses is definitely where a lot of it comes into play.
Yeah.
The cool thing though, with like we talked about always having your camera at the ready. I don't know if you run one of those Peak Design camera clips.
I was going to ask you about that, Erik. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when we were on that the Boats and Bows pod venture, like we were talking about like that little clip that I had. Basically, this is something that straps right to your straps to your backpack strap and keeps your camera literally right on your shoulder.
Yeah.
So like if you're floating down a river or if you're hiking up something, photos are best grabbed during those like very slight moments in time where
Not planned out.
Yeah,
Everything
your
like
candid
spontaneous. Oh, hey.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to grab those if your camera isn't easy to access. So having it right on your shoulder.
Right, yeah, because then you got to
Definitely.
throw your backpack down and everything.
Yep.
You're slowing everything up.
Exactly.
I know from experience, if it's buried in your pack,
You're not going to take it.
you're not taking it out.
Yep.
You're not taking it out. And when you do take it out, it's because you have the time, and then you're not getting those
Then you're
spontaneous
holding
moments.
everything
and
up.
It's just,
Yep.
The ideal situation would be have one in your hands and have one clipped to your body with another lens. Completely.
2 cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of professional photographers, like
Oh, sure. Okay,
outdoor
I've
photographers,
seen
do it a
where,
lot.
yeah, you go to somebody's wedding and usually the photographer there has 2 cameras, just like always rolling.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Or not rolling, snapping.
Snapping. Keep it snapping. Heavy on the shutter.
Yeah. Rip.
Yeah, I mean that's like heavy on the shutter is one of those things too. Like I don't know. I would consider myself a volume photographer. It takes me like 15
the Allen
shots.
Iverson.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson of photographers.
The more lead in the air, the more chances you have of hitting something. It also applies to photos. The more photos you take, the more apt you are to get that one really good one.
Well, and it seems, I'd say particularly when you're filming something that's in motion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the ability with digital nowadays to be able to go just hammer down, you might get, a series of shots that are all literally like in real time. Maybe it was a 1 second moment or a 3 second moment, but there's that one that's in the middle. You're like, yep, that person's expression was just right. Or maybe they moved just a little bit and the sun hits, the subject matter just a little bit different. But yeah, I fall into and I'm nowhere your guys' status, but yeah, take 100 to get one.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this now too. So I have my iPhone on me a lot. Usually my iPhone's pretty easy to get at.
Yeah,
And I can get it out pretty quick.
Yep.
So I know we've talked about having a camera on you is important. I can totally get that. But let me go even further and just start to ask you guys, how do you get such a dang good photo? That's where I'm like,
Angles.
Yeah.
I can take a picture of MC Ryan here right now in like
Yep.
2 seconds, get him in his natural habitat.
Yep.
But it'd be just sort of like a very bland looking photo. Some of these photos you see when you follow really good photographers, even in like your guys' stuff on your own Instagram accounts, I look at it, the lighting looks amazing. Everything pops. Everything has nice color contrast.
Yep.
Everything looks really cool. The way it's
Composed.
kind of the perspective of it too looks
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah.
It's all like nicely centered
OCD.
up and
Yep.
Helps. Like having a very OCD based personality helps with that a lot, I think.
And it, like
that's good to know.
we talked a little bit too, like about the whole compressing space thing, and to take that a step further, like, you know, if you some of the pictures, like if you had to ask somebody who isn't a photographer what they like in a photo, they'd probably talk about, man, I really like when you get that blurry like thing in the front, and then you got your subject is very tack sharp, and then the stuff in the
the
background.
iPhone portrait photo.
Yeah, basically portrait mode. So like where you're getting that like compressing space, that kind of defined as like you're taking all these, you have a subject, which is your, you know, going to be in focus. You always have your foreground and then you have your background. So like to create that, you want something with like a little bit more zoom, which you're not really going to get on an iPhone without kind of, you know, distorting the quality of it a little
It's
bit.
just a digital zoom, right? It's not an
Exactly.
optical zoom.
Yep.
So that's why like having a telephoto lens is important for
With a really tight aperture.
Yep.
Like 2.8 is super ideal for a telephoto lens, but they're pricey.
What the heck does that
I was going
mean?
to say, should we define aperture?
absolutely take it.
Like Rick was just saying, like you have your foreground and your background, your target and focus. You'll notice a much more distinguished target that's in focus with your foreground and background out of focus with a sharper aperture like 2.8 as opposed to 5.6.
So
And
I
what
know
would be-
that's like something, if you look at the Golden Eagle rifle scope, the F-class rifle scope, there's an aperture stop, which cuts it down from like a 52 millimeter objective to a smaller, I can't remember, it's 30 something, maybe. But they do that in order to make the depth of field or something like that. Like you can see mirage between you and the target a lot easier as you go through your parallax dial than if you had it removed and with a 52 millimeter objective, right? Isn't that similar thing?
Yeah, it's all related for sure.
And how are those numbers working though? You know,
So the higher your number, like let's say f-stop is another thing that people refer to this as. F11 is going to give you more things in focus than a smaller number like f28. So the smaller your number, the more blurry your background and foreground is going to be.
Gotcha.
But the higher
that you're focused on
is going to be tack
nice
sharp.
and sharp.
So like right now, if I, took a photo of my, Yeti mug sitting on the table here, and I took the same photo without changing the position of the camera or anything like that, but all I did was change the f-stop, one being f28 and one being f11. F28, everything, you guys would be blurred out, but if I did f11, like you'd be able to pick up detail back in those gun lockers in the backside of this room.
Okay.
That's a great example.
And that's something that's in the lens that you get? That's not the camera.
You control it from the camera, or there's also manual aperture lenses where you can control it from the lens as well. So, which those are significantly cheaper in price, and you can still keep up with quality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So interesting.
With gear selection, just because you have to even get these photos, you got to have the right equipment, right? We're kind of talking about maybe a specific photography subset here of like, wildlife or documenting a hunt or something like that. We're talking about space and weight because those are considerations. So like in your kit, and we touched on a few of the things, but like what is in your kit to basically have the minimum amount of gear to do the maximum amount of things? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Your experience. I mean, learning to manipulate one set lens into a bunch of different perspectives is like the ultimate way to learn. Like
A lot of experimentation.
I'm still nowhere near an expert at any of this stuff. But if there's one thing I've taken from photography over time is like I ran just a 50 millimeter lens, like no zoom. It's stuck at 50 millimeters, so considered a prime lens. I learned how to take that one and get like really up close and adjust my shooting perspectives from there and like super far away and still making things look like you used a different lens the whole time, but really you're just creating different perspectives with angles and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And then like on the other end of that, you can look at like the variable lenses, like a 24 to 70, a 70 to 200. These are your telephoto multiples, zoom range.
So that's
lenses.
the zoom range.
Yep.
Okay.
So if I have like usually my two favorite lenses are a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200. So essentially I have every zoom range from 24 to 200 covered. So like,
And that's not you're not talking about like 200 times. Zoom,
No,
right?
200
You're talking about a
millimeters.
millimeter
Yes,
size of the lens, which then correlates to how much the thing looks magnified.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So, like,
It's weird that they don't call. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's weird that they don't. Like we call rifle scopes, like a 624 by 50.
Right.
We include that 50 millimeter objective belt, but the 624 could happen whether it was a 50 or a
32,
56,
yeah.
32. Yeah,
It's weird that
anyway,
there's no
strange.
like magnification like related
Yeah.
to like the
Yeah.
millimeters.
Right.
So what's that covering you, Rick, like distance wise?
So, like, when I filmed like whitetail hunts, a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200 would be everything you would need for filming a bow hunt.
Okay.
So, like, if I was going to film dialogue back to back with you or get shots of you, like, 2 feet away from me in a tree stand, I could put that 24 to 70 on, and on the wide end of that zoom range, I'd be able to get really wide establishing shots. And then if I went up to that, I switched lenses and went to that 24 to or that 70 to 200, I'd be able to film a deer at 200 yards out in a bean field.
Yeah.
Obviously, like some of the stuff there, this is on the filming side, so there's stuff like 4K footage that allows you to crop in a little bit more and get more video quality without degrading what that looks like by scaling in your picture. So that helps a little bit, but I think a lot of it is just having you don't want to bring too much, but
Right.
you also want to have all your bases covered, and that's why I think personally, this is a personal thing, that 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200 just covers you on a wide different range of applications.
Right.
Did it take you a while of buying a ton of different lenses to figure out that was the best combo for you?
Yeah.
Are you renting lenses ever to figure out what you like best?
Renting lenses is awesome.
It's a great idea.
It is.
Yeah.
When my wife and I went on our honeymoon, I rented a 70 to 200 for the first time.
Yeah.
And we went to Estes Park, Colorado. And my big thing is I really wanted to take photos of the elk. We were there in the middle of September. They were bugling like crazy.
By the way, I've seen these images, everybody. They are awesome.
Thank you, Marco. Like the first time I went out there, I was like kind of bummed out that I didn't have something with a little bit more zoom. So then just a year and a half ago, I went back out there, and rather than renting a 70 to 200, I rented a 100 to 400 lens.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I had
So correction, those are the images that I've seen then.
those. Well, you've seen a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
There
All
were
right.
there were times where with that 70 to 200, you just had to physically be very close to your subject to get a little
Okay.
bit more detail. But yeah, the stuff with that 100 to 400 millimeter lens, if you're primarily shooting like wildlife or stuff like that, the numbers game, big numbers, we always talk about that with optics. It
Yeah.
kind of does help out a little bit in the photography realm because you just want to be able to, get in a little bit closer to your subject without being right there. You don't want to be 30 yards from a grizzly bear to get an awesome photo of it. You want to be 500 yards away with the ability to zoom in and make it feel like you're right up in his grill.
Got it. That's fair. That's fair. How do you when I think of zooming in big time on something like that, I'm thinking, does your image get, like in a rifle scope, for example?
Yep.
Do you start having issues where it gets a little bit dimmer than it was when you were zoomed
Oh,
out?
absolutely.
Do you start having
Absolutely.
issues where it's a little bit more grainy than it was when it was zoomed out? So what is it just where okay, if you really want to get super, super, super high quality photos when you're really, really zoomed in, you got to get the most expensive lenses ever? Or is it
Well, it
settings on your
helps.
camera that you got to get right? Or
Yes, settings on your camera is huge.
dude, settings on your camera, I feel like so many times you can plug in a lot of different lenses and you can kind of
Yeah.
get a feel for, it's zoomed in this much or it's wide angle or whatever.
I-
But then the settings on the camera, it's like you're still not done once you plug a lens
Yeah.
in.
There's a lot of buttons.
There are, and I think it's hilarious too because you see, even some of the professional videographers that we work with, every now and then you'll look over at what they're filming and they have it on auto ISO, which ISO is essentially in the video world that's gain or grain. So as you increase your amount of gain or ISO, you're adding a lot more pixelated little grainy ants into the image.
Yeah, why would you want to do that?
So it is a very significant way to change it for lighting situations. So in low light, you're going to add a lot of that ISO, and you're going to have more light gathering capabilities. But with that, you're also going to increase the graininess of the image.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's other ways to do that too. Like you can shoot at a slower shutter speed, so you probably want to go down to like 1/80th or 1/60th for hand holding, and then
What does that mean?
so
Shutter speed's how long the thing stays open and
Yep.
it's gathering the image, right?
exactly picture a window with a blind on it. You know, and then that 1/60th or 1/500th, obviously 1/500th is way faster than 1/60th. That's the amount of time at which that blindfold
Is that like
comes up.
1/60th of a second?
Yes.
And 1/500th of a second?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I get it.
And you can audibly hear the difference too if you're shooting on a fast shutter speed versus a slow one.
I have heard sometimes on the slow ones you hear like the chung, chung, chung.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whereas if you ever watch somebody shoot like stop motion stuff or like, wildlife, you're probably hearing that ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. It's just super
Sure.
fast.
Or sports or just something that's,
Yeah.
a lot of motion to it.
Yep.
So then, like, maybe an extreme example of a slow shutter speed is that when you see, like, somebody's got they must have had their camera on a tripod and maybe they're photographing, like, moving water, but it's kind of like that, just that super soft,
Yes.
blurry
Yeah,
type stuff. That'd
Or
be
they're
like
they're camp and you see lights
Yes.
all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah,
Making
those are
the
super.
fire
Those are
fly.
like multiple second exposures. So if you
Gotcha.
see a guy walking around a camp in the middle of the mountains with a headlamp on, it looks like a stream.
Yeah.
That's a multiple second exposure shot, like probably usually 10 to 15 seconds, where their shutter is open and taking a picture for 15 seconds, compressing it into one image. Now, obviously, you have to play your settings right. Like you
Shoot
play
on
the
a
rest of them right.
tripod.
Yeah, definitely a tripod. Get your other settings right, and then it still shots like a video basically into one picture.
I do
Super
love
cool.
those.
That's a confusing thing though too. Like I think you started going down this road,
Yeah.
but like somebody say it's low light, they jack up the ISO.
Yeah.
You were saying too, it's like there's more than one way to get to a better image in low light, for example.
Exactly.
You can jack up your ISO or you can leave a longer shutter speed.
Yep.
There's probably even other ways.
There
Aperture.
are. Yep. So
Okay.
so there's a lot of parallels that go from like the photo world to the video world. And like when I was filming deer hunts, my like sequence of events, first thing I would do is slow down the shutter speed. Then you would open up your aperture as wide as it goes, and now you're still at a very low ISO or gain, the grainy thing that we talked about. The last thing you do is start manipulating that. So that's like if you've ever watched a hunting show and like they literally shot something at the last minute of legal shooting time, and the footage just looks like there's like little fuzzy ants all over the screen. That's because they have their ISO or their gain like cranked way up to allow as much light in. But that's like step 3 of the 3-step process.
Yeah, that's the last
of-
thing you want to do to gain light.
Yep.
Okay.
Because then you start losing a lot of quality.
Yeah.
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 Gotcha. Gotcha.
Interesting.
Do you think sometimes people are actually going to that first?
Yes.
It's definitely a mistake. I think people like just like working out, you want to do something that gives you the biggest difference right away.
Bench press.
Bench press. So and that's not always the best thing to do. Like
There are other exercises.
you want to work in
Well,
a
I don't
way.
think that's what we're saying.
How much do you
Yeah.
squat?
Let's not.
Man, you were really throwing me for a loop there.
Let's not go that
Mark was
far.
going to go home and just start hitting the squat rack and
repping it.
So like, the parallel there from working out is like there's different ways that you can people are drawn to the thing that gives them the most change in a very short amount
Right.
of time. So like ISO, if you want to go from one lighting situation to another, the ISO is the fastest way to do that. But it's not the best.
Well, and I could see that potentially, and I don't know, but like almost happening out of necessity because you literally might have
A screaming bull in your-
milliseconds,
yeah.
and
Yep.
you're like, I know this isn't the best, but bam, And I guess we're talking probably more video than stills, perhaps.
And photo too. It's
Yeah.
applicable there.
Yeah.
Typical to both.
It really seems like if you're gonna go the route of going with a separate camera from a phone,
Mm-hmm.
when I've seen people get mirrorless or DSLRs or whatever, and you see them get it and then they throw it on auto, it's kind of like, why'd you get it?
Right.
A little bit. Am I right there?
Oh yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, I'm sure you guys, there's probably tons of different things you can do to learn. There's probably, I know there's classes that you can take and all that stuff, but a lot of it comes from just trial and error, right?
Yeah,
Like you get the
absolutely.
thing and you got to know if I'm going to get this, I'm going to get really good quality photos with it.
Yep.
unless you get really lucky on auto,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to screw around with it a lot.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys just did? You guys seem more like along the lines of self-taught. I don't know if you took classes and stuff too, but
No. A lot
mostly
of my
self-taught.
friends like growing up were like, oh, you should totally take photography classes. Like, you're good. I'm like, no, I'm not. But I don't think like classes would do a lot for me either. Like they definitely teach you how to run the camera like the way you're supposed to, and they teach you all the things that people don't know unless you do a ton of research. But when I grabbed my first camera, which is just a Canon DSLR as a 6D, like I just played around out in the woods taking photos of everything, and a lot of it looked awful. I'm like, how? So you just start Googling things. Like, eventually you resort to I've got this cool shot. I have to put it on auto because I don't know what I'm doing. But you're still learning. So it's just more time with the camera and changing the settings because you'll pick up right away. Like, oh, well, that sucked. So try something else.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels that you can draw from like photography to rifle scopes too. Like you just talked about like buy this awesome DSLR or mirrorless camera and now you're running it on full auto. It'd be like buying an AMG and not adjusting the parallax.
Or not setting
Right.
Or using it for primarily like squirrel hunting, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, so like there's a lot to be said about like learning by experience.
Just because you got the most expensive camera doesn't mean good pictures are just going to fart out of
exactly.
it.
Correct.
Just like buying the best rifle scope doesn't mean you're going to start farting out bullseyes.
Yeah.
That's actually a great point though. Like it's not you can't buy your way to good photos.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
buy your way to good gear, and then if you really start to understand your good gear, you can be more capable.
I'd have to imagine too, probably you could give somebody who's a really experienced photographer, you could give them a less expensive camera and they're still going to pump out really, really nice, and lenses too even, and they're still going to pump out really nice images compared to somebody, you know, like we were just talking about this at the time of this recording, and when this actually comes out, I think we'll be good in talking about this, but we were just in Arizona coos deer hunting for our pod venture, and we had to laugh because Mark and I hadn't been in Arizona. Mark had been to Arizona before. I'd never been there before, but it had been a while since you were there.
Yeah, a few years, yeah.
Got to get your deer eyes, right? Coos deer are very difficult to spot. We set up, and the guy that we were with, who was kind of helping us out first day, get our bearings right, figure out where we were going, he had a set of Crossfire 12x50s. He was spotting deer left and right. We're out there with UHD. This is within the first 30 minutes of being in Arizona.
Right.
We're out there with Razor UHDs. We didn't see anything.
Yeah.
And he's talking us on to him left and right. And we're like, where? It took us a while to actually finally start seeing deer and figuring out this is where they are. This is what they look like.
Yep.
To then
This is where they like to, like where they are, where they like to be. You know, I mean, there's
Totally.
Well, yeah, we got for that period of time, and of course, it's like you give then that guy who already has the skill and the eye for it. You give him the really nice thing, and then now he's spotting even more,
Right.
Probably.
Exactly.
But you know,
yeah. You can. I mean, 100%. You can go to like my. I have a Sony A6300, and I still use the kit lens that came with it, so that I didn't pay any extra for it. It's like a 18 or 16 to 55 millimeter f3.5 lens. Like it's a very. I mean, you can literally buy that lens used for like $70.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like it is not fancy. And then that camera, I think you can buy that used right now for $600. But if you really understand how to like manipulate settings and all that stuff, you know, you can do definitely like usable, like very usable. I mean, even professional quality stuff with that gear.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
would you say that's about? And this kind of off shoot a little bit. Would you say that's about like if you're looking to get decent quality gear, like that setup used $670 maybe total for a lens and a camera body, about normal?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, years ago, like you used to hear a lot about like the Canon T3i, which was an awesome like starter camera for people. And now with this like kind of shift in trends going to like the mirrorless system, that A6300, A6500, that kind of Sony mirrorless crop sensor lineup is a really good starting point for people without, you know, dumping a monthly 2 months payment on their vehicle.
Well, and
whatever,
the Alpha
you know?
series of Sony are tanks of bodies.
Yeah, yep.
Like they are just beasts.
Yep. That was the first camera I ever. I got it as a graduation present. Was a Sony A58. I think the whole thing with the lens cost like $350, $400. And to your point, like of the parallel from like the Crossfires versus the Razors, same thing applied to that. Like it was just, I took that thing and started like shooting a bunch. Like when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. But then the more you do, the more you screw up, then you're able to like figure out, okay, what did I do wrong here? And then apply that. And once you get proficient with, entry level equipment, then that's where I would suggest someone kind of start.
You can appreciate so much more when you get the nice stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and all that practice too. I mean, I guess just like anything, the more you practice something, the better you get at it, the faster, the more proficient, you're able to shift on the fly when those moments are counting versus, what setting is this? Maybe I better trivia. Oh, it's over. Never mind. We'll
like
try again next
Eric
time.
said, you start to figure out over time, like what settings it's going to take to be in this situation or that situation. And especially when you kind of know the outcome of how your hunt's going to go, you know that it's getting dark out, start adjusting your settings before time.
Right. Yeah. Or if we've gone to a super wide open landscape.
Pop onto the telephoto lens. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm on Wyatt's page right now, and I'm looking at your photos, and I'm wondering, these here's an awesome photo right now. For example, a very fresh looking shed that you found. Close up shot, the background's all blurred out and whatnot. Do you have to also know that? Did you go in and do anything to this afterwards, like edit it at all? Do you also have a computer program that is supplemental to the actual physical photography that you're doing? Then
to an extent, yeah. Like I do post work.
And I don't want to say like you go in and you're like, oh, I edit everything. It's like not even the original photo anymore.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of people who are photographers, they have whatever Lightroom or something like that.
That's
where
what
they
I
go
run.
and they do stuff.
Yeah. I mean, post work is great. It can give you a dramatic effect on a lot of photos. It can save some photos. But the biggest thing, I mean, I'm definitely no expert, but taking them as good as you can raw does you a way bigger outcome than just ripping photos, not knowing where your camera is settings wise, and like, oh, I'll throw it into Lightroom and work on it.
Right.
Make them look good raw, and then you don't have to do anything. I mean, like, that's...
You want to touch on the raw versus...
I was going to ask about file types.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's a big thing. Like Mirrorless, like shooting my files raw, they're like 40 to 45 they're megabytes a piece. At least. I'm shooting a 42 megapixel camera, so my raw files are huge.
Right.
And you compress them down to JPEGs. Obviously, they come down a lot smaller. Shooting them in RAW, though, allows you to edit them and not lose as much. So your RAW files are going to be huge. You edit them and compress them down to JPEGs, and you have a smaller file, but you've done your post work to it.
Is that just giving you like way more, essentially, data to work with?
Exactly.
Yes, it's like shooting in 4K, then cropping in a little bit. Gives
and
you
like,
more room.
I think, especially to somebody who might be listening to this, kind of like just starting out, they might, shoot a photo in RAW and be like, man, why does that look so flat? Why does it look so drab? If you ever look at a JPEG photo that was shot in JPEG and then a RAW photo, you're going to notice that RAW photo is way flatter, way more neutral color profile. Like I could take a photo of you guys right now and the red Hornady thing might look way less red and just not as vivid.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah. It looks a little bit almost like it has a bit of a
almost a filter over it.
Yeah.
So and what that is that
someone who's proficient with Instagram filters,
which is almost counterintuitive for what it sounds like it's giving you.
Exactly. But what it is giving you is way more data, way more information in that photo to really like adjust things like your highlights, your shadows, all that stuff. So like if you're trying to shoot, I don't know, let's just say landscape photos. Shooting in RAW, anything really, is going to give you way more detail to make sure that finished product pops without it looking like a super crazy good edit. You know what I mean? Like a good edit is something that just makes it feel like it was at the moment the photo was taken.
Gotcha.
Right. Like that one was shot extremely close to RAW. Like made her pop a little bit more. That doe standing in the fog made it pop a little bit. That one I remember touched up a little bit of clarity, dropped highlights a little bit, dropped shadows a little bit, and didn't really do anything else. Like you do lens corrections and chromatic aberration stuff, check that off right off the bat. But like shooting closer raw will always give you a better image because there's a lot of photos. Like even shooting for the amount of time I have, which is not extremely long compared to, all the bigger guys, but I've ruined so many photos by not paying attention to where my camera was, especially like being in the woods on a sunny day. Like there's not a lot of photographers that would say, I love shooting when it's sunny outside, unless you're at the first few minutes of daylight or the last few, because it's so hard to shoot when it's sunny out and there's shadows in the woods.
That's what I was going to ask about that, like time of day, like creative use of lighting, proper use of lighting, time of day, we're outside.
Photographers are like deer. A lot of times in the middle of the day, they're kind of like, I'm not.
They're
gonna go
holed
out.
up.
Right.
Yeah.
They're holed up, drinking a coffee somewhere.
Yeah, you hear golden hour thrown out a lot, and that's like when the sun first pops over the horizon, and when the sun is finally setting on the horizon. Like that's when you get your most brilliant lighting conditions.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, but then I think this is kind of a sidetrack to that, but like shooting, and this is from, you mentioned Stephen Drake a little bit.
Look at that golden hour shot right
Like
there.
that's
Holy smokes.
like there's your example.
You mentioned Stephen Drake a couple times. Like one of the things that this guy talks about all the time is shooting when it's really crappy out. Like
I have that written down.
yeah, shoot the best times when you're going to get especially if you're shooting people. Like when we were on the Boats and Bows Podventure trip.
Oh, very crappy.
like if we would have had like
Can't enunciate enough.
if we would have
emphasize enough.
if we would have
It
had
wasn't
like
necessarily the weather. It was just
that's where I'm going with that. If we would have had like torrential downpours or like, some kind of gnarly wind or whatever, that's when you're going to get that really raw, authentic facial expression
Gritty
out of
content.
people. Like you see it all the time where like the person has a 1,000-yard stare and they're like almost trying too much
to look a little grizzled.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit
like
of that Gandalf the Grey.
yeah, you're going to get that way more when you're shooting in those like truly kind of harsh weather conditions. And then another thing is not letting your subject know that you're shooting them.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
like shooting, if your camera has the ability to shoot on a silent shutter, use that, because if people all of a sudden, as soon as people hear ka-ching, 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 they like
freeze up.
Yeah,
Posture
they
out,
totally.
I
natural.
look funny. Oh wait,
Yeah.
should I position myself? Yeah,
They
it's
act entirely
true.
differently. So like
probably flex. That's probably
yeah,
my first.
That's yeah. Well, I mean,
I guess I just didn't. I was so natural. I didn't even think of mentioning that.
or they just like stop and start doing like get a quick pump of 15 push-ups in, and then they stand up straight. No, but like not letting your subject know that you're shooting them, you're gonna have a lot more like raw interaction.
And like you mentioned, Stephen Drake being a great example of getting those raw, nasty, gritty, amazing shots. There's firsthand video evidence of him in the nastiest weather conditions of the mountains, like wind blowing 20 mile an hour when it's snowing and it's freezing temps outside, but he's sitting there with no gloves on so he can run his camera and just ripping gritty shots. You have to be in those crappy conditions to get those. I mean, you don't have to.
Well, I think you have to, but
yeah.
it pays off to be able to shoot when the last thing you probably actually want to be doing, except for the love of the art, is to be.
That's what he said.
Shooting.
That's literally what he said after the last Diverge go around. They talked about you have to be shooting when the last thing you want to do is shoot to get the most amazing shots.
Well, and not
because anybody
only-
can go out on a sunny day.
And from a comfort standpoint, and just like, I mean, I've seen some stuff from him and the guys at 60th where you're just like, these situations are, you're in the middle of nowhere. You are basically your only support system. The weather's completely gone south. You've got an animal down that you need to take care of. You might be in bear country, and you're taking extra time
To photograph.
Yes.
to photograph it and document
Remy's
it.
talked
And-
about that a little bit too.
Yeah, and it's just my hat goes off to those guys.
Yeah.
And
for
that's
sure.
that's where you gotta wonder too, and you gotta. I've always had to ask people, or have wanted to ask people that are outdoor photographers like you guys selves and other folks out there is, I guess you have to go out, and it's probably more natural to you now, just as natural as it is for me to just in any situation think of cars somehow.
Yeah.
But
knew he was
you
gonna
have
say
to go
cars.
out thinking that, okay, I'm going to get photos today.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, when I'm out hunting, the last thing I'm thinking, and it's always until it's too late, like I just did something cool.
Yeah.
which doesn't happen often. But something cool happened,
Right.
Or there was a cool photo op, and I did it, and then now that I'm out of it, I'm thinking that would have been a good photo.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
And so you have to be thinking about that all the time. How do you prioritize things in your guys' head to the point where you're still enjoying the hunt and you're not always constantly like, oh, I gotta get that photo. Oh, I gotta get that photo. Oh wait, but I'm still hunting. Oh wait, but there's another photo. But the hunt. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you weigh in on this first because I know we have different ideas here.
Yeah, see, Rick and I are Rick's a killer. Okay, first off, the dude kills like 1,000 turkeys a year and
Guy's
like
a
15
slayer.
deer. A good example
These are
of this.
exaggerations, DNR.
Yeah.
By the way, a good example of this is my girlfriend always tells me, just enjoy it. Like, she loves that I'm so passionate about photography, but she's like, just forget your camera, just enjoy it. I'm like, listen, you don't understand. Being able to look back on these things is what I enjoy. Like this year, example of my bow buck that I somehow harvested, I took photos of him before I shot him just because I think it's cooler to be able to look at something in like a quality setting and look back on that and be like, wow. Like every single time I go back through all of my past raw files, I find something that I was like, that I didn't appreciate at the time. But now you go back and you're like, oh, this is super cool. So for me, I think the only thing that I have justifying the camera versus bow versus your in-life experience is just, okay, I get just as much enjoyment being able to capture it and look at it and just think, wow, that's super cool. That's an awesome photo. Like being able to look back on the experiences because you can't remember everything from a hunt.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that happens is when I go back and I think back to just Arizona, right, that we were just on, and I think of, I got maybe 2 photos as I happen to be videoing on my iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
I just clicked the little photo button, too. I got 2 photos from a stalk Mark and I went on a coos buck that the stalk was incredible, and the scenery that we got, we went by these crazy, huge, like finger-looking rocks. We went up this insane, steep hill. The distance and the vastness of the distance that we crossed was incredible. Some of the views that we saw, there was a couple times where I turned around and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm on top of the world. I literally am on top of the world. And I go back in my phone because I'm like, that was so cool. I got to have photos. And there's 1 or maybe 2 where I happen to hit the photo button while I was doing a quick video thing.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah.
well, and maybe part of me is like, I want to show a bunch of people, right? Because I want to share this, but also I'm hoping that, those memories in my head don't ever fade away to the point where I can't remember them, and then I don't have a photo to help me remember them.
And that's where, like, back to the whole, like, how do you separate hunting from, like, photographing? That's where you and I are kind of like on different pages there. Like for me now, I did this for 5 years where every time I hunted, like I had a camera with me or like I was filming or whatever. Yeah. Now it's like it's been so refreshing. It almost like reinvigorated my like enjoyment for the sport.
It's got to be freeing.
It is.
I mean, you love the images, you love the art, you love capturing those moments, but man, what a weight.
So what I try to do is like, for me personally, and everyone's obviously very different with this, like I don't bring my camera gear into the field when I'm just hunting by myself.
Gotcha.
So I try to like separate it. Like if I'm on a hunt and I'm like photographing or filming, like that's what I'm doing. And then I try not to bring my bow because then I always am going to end up going like hunt mode.
You're going to get in hunt mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I can remove that from the equation, I've found that like I shoot better photos. I shoot more photos. And I'm just like more focused on whatever the task is.
Doing one thing really good versus 2 things
really bad.
Really bad. Which my hat goes off to you look at like Remy and Tim with Solo Hunter and the way those guys video themselves
and those photos of that deer that you shot. Like it. Oh yeah.
I got lucky. That never happened. I got so lucky. That wasn't
a million years. Am I even going? I'm a very. I'd say you could say I'm a shoot first, literally take pictures later.
Yes.
When it comes down to that moment. I did want to, because we kind of touched on something there. And like stills, trying to shoot stills and video on the same hunt. Good idea, bad idea. I know like I'm nowhere near your guys' level, but like you said, Jim, we're on that hunt. I'd say the primary thing we were trying to capture was kind of like a video documentation of it. So you kind of sacrifice the still portion. How do you guys balance that, or is it kind of like with the hunting
I think stills are
and
cooler.
photography for you, Rick? Do you try and separate those things and hey, I'm a video guy today, or I'm a still guy today, or do you just transition back and forth? How's that working?
If it's possible to transition back and forth, like if there's something that like pops in your, you know, while you're out there doing it, it's like, man, this is a really cool moment. Like whatever the project is, if it's a film documentary like you guys were just doing, like obviously the priority is going to be filming it. But then if you have the chance to like go through and like shoot that in stills at the same time, like right after, like literally, let's say it's a pan of like two guys on a hilltop glassing with like this gnarly cold front rolling in. Film that pan, and then like as soon as you're done with it, switch over to photo mode and
Gotcha. So almost just kind of staying cognizant of maybe like the secondary functionality.
Yeah.
Like get your primary first, lock it down,
Yep.
and then come in afterward and clean up.
Yeah,
But,
because you can definitely do both. But yeah, like focusing on whatever the primary driver of it is like a priority. That's how I would like differentiate it.
Yeah.
I think stills are cooler for some reason.
I-
It's when
I
you're
do
in the
too.
moment. When you're in the moment, we all sort of live life in video, if you will, through our eyes, right? Because everything's
Yeah.
always moving. You don't see things in stills necessarily. But when you go through and you're in the moment, you think, "Oh, I got to video this." Or at least I do a lot. And then when I actually go back to watch the video, sometimes I'm a little bit annoyed because I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, I was videoing basically everything I was looking at, but what I never got was a cool image of the whole thing.
right.
Yeah.
You know? Or I never got a cool image of a very specific little thing. I
Right.
just kind of got a video of like, yeah,
You got a
kinda
lot of
everything.
stuff, but maybe not that perfect moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It kind of like, broken out. You know what I mean? I think it's
can't-
easier to focus
How
on
many
that,
times have
too.
we gone to Nate, video guy Nate, on a Podventure thing or whatever, and we're like, oh, can you get a still of that? You know,
Yep.
of whatever video thing he
Yeah.
was doing. And the video's great too, but you're like,
Right.
can you get a still of that? That's just like right there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think a still captures like a specific moment in time, and like the best ones are the ones that elicit that emotion. They can take you back to a sense of a place and time. So like, if there's people in there, that obviously adds to it too. So like a great photo is literally going to make you look at it and immediately like you're there, you know? So
Yep, you can feel that too.
Yeah.
I mean, you can literally, like you said, there's that emotion comes back, and I think even if you weren't there, if you are seeing somebody else's photos,
yep.
you can still feel a lot of those
Yeah.
same things. Like I've been in that situation, or I'd like to be in that situation. And that's one thing. Like we're talking about like wildlife photography and hunting, and sometimes they marry up. And like I love beautiful wildlife shots of just the animals. But when you get a shot and maybe you have let's say you're bow hunting elk, and you can see that the hunter in the foreground, and that bull, you can tell he's like super close, just bugling his face off.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of plug yourself into that scenario and be
Yep.
like, my goodness, that is like insane.
Yep, exactly.
What do you guys do? How do you think about stuff when you're out there and you're trying to get just the right perspective or just the right shot to tell a story? That's one of the things that I think is hardest to do. Like, there's all kinds of photos out there that are all over Instagram and everywhere where it's a really well taken shot, it's a cool shot, and it's of something. It doesn't tell a story. It just
Right.
tells. Like, I love it because I'm a huge gun nerd. But
Yeah.
when I see a picture of a really cool gun,
Yep.
I'm kind of like, all right, really cool, well taken picture of a gun, a
Yep.
cool gun. Okay, sweet. Now I'm done.
Yep.
But then you'll see pictures of, and I was trying to scroll through your guys because in a million of these ones, all tell a story. The phone facial recognition never recognized me with my headset on. But you take a cool shot, and it tells way more than this is the physical thing you're looking at in the photo. You can
Yeah.
tell everything that happened around the photo.
Yep.
How are you getting that? Because a lot of times I just find myself where I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I take a picture of it. And then later on, I'm thinking to myself, it could have been, somehow it doesn't tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what about? Are you talking about angles then? Because I was going to ask about angles.
Yeah, some of
Jim.
some of it's angle related. Some of it's just what subject matter. Sometimes there's a really cool picture. I can go outside and I can stick my phone in the air and just take a picture of the tips of some
Yeah.
trees. But it's never going to be cool as sometimes you'll see a picture where somebody took a picture of the forest and the trees and the leaves, and somehow it looks purposeful, not almost just kind of like, oh, I accidentally took a photo there.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, I think half the battle in that situation is being present in that moment, because like I think about, one for me would be like my dad shot a deer a couple of years ago. It was the first deer he shot in like 12 years. And like rather than like being with him right there, and I kind of feel like almost partly guilty, like I was like over his shoulder like shooting images of that. And like that's getting that raw emotion in that exact time, rather than it was something that he easily could have said, like I could have been there with him and then had him recreate that. But then, like you said, you just get an image.
But it's never the same.
It's never the same. Yeah,
Raw is always better.
Yeah,
and like you said, like how do you get that crazy, like unplanned out stuff where it looks different than just walking out and thinking, oh, that's cool, taking it. I think the biggest thing, and I guarantee you'll agree with this, is just be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's simply how you get, obviously with your experience and like different angles, but like even the same photo, you can take so many different ways based on, the amount of magnification you've used with your lens or the settings, like whether you run your aperture wide open or nearly shut, or different lighting conditions, bright, super bright, and super dim to where you can barely see it on your screen, but pulling it into post and just lifting things up a little bit.
Well, into Mark's point earlier with the angle thing, like you could take a picture of two dudes walking, or you can get on the ground with like your face in the dirt and take a picture. Yeah. Take a picture looking up at them, and you have all the rocks in the foreground and then them in the background, and then all of a sudden now you're telling a story of this was super rocky, rough terrain, and we were hiking on it. Or
well, and it's more interesting too.
Right. And the other thing with that, when you're trying to tell a story, like especially when there's people involved, focus on the eyes. Like make sure you have somebody's face.
The eyes are like the groin of the face.
The eyes tell the story. Yes.
I was going to say the windows to the soul, Jim, but
that's a Dwight Schrute quote.
The eyes are always going to tell the story. So like you can take the same image, and if you have like somebody looking out over this vast expanse, it might look really cool, but their back might be turned to it, to the lens. As soon as you can figure out a way to get their eyes in there, like you're getting that emotion, you're connecting with that person, you're like almost, you can almost see what they're seeing through their eyes without actually being there.
That Bill Kersher photo is a freaking fantastic example of emotion shot into a photo that you can just tell what happened. Did you guys see that one?
No.
The guy holding the dog with all the ducks in her mouth.
Oh,
no.
And so the story behind it was the dog couldn't, like in this hunt, the dog was not able to walk anymore. It was a very old dog, very experienced dog. So I'm sure it was the owner of the dog's holding her out in the middle of whether they were in a wetlands or lake, I don't know. But he's holding her. She's still got the ducks, but she can't walk. So he's holding her, and her eyes are like the droopiest, cutest puppy dog eyes you've ever seen. And you can just tell she knows the battle's over, but she's still holding on.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's amazing. And, and you just like you said, you gotta be present and cognizant to almost be in just always in that image taking mode
and
storytelling.
Storytelling. But Rick, you brought up something when you're talking about that hunt with your dad, and like you almost feel guilty, right? And so that's a hunt. That's like a super important moment in both of your guys' lives that you're sharing together, and like there is a little bit of so you're in the moment taking images, right?
That's so
but you're
cool.
not in the moment. You're somewhat removed in the moment with your dad, so there's a sacrifice there.
Definitely. And that's why, like we talked about earlier, like separating it, I think is for some people, like especially if it's a moment like that, like there's something to be said about like being present in there all the time. But then you miss out on that like mental or that physical image, so it's a trade-off.
Double-edged sword, because I guarantee,
you lose some, man.
I guarantee that's probably one of your favorite images that you've ever shot that you look back on probably frequently and fondly.
Yep.
But you gave something up at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to one thing we were talking about, Wyatt just showed that picture of that dog. It's so cool. And the thing I was thinking about when we were talking about photo versus video is if somebody would have taken a video of that guy holding the dog, it would have still been really cool. But nothing can match up to a still awesome image that lets your imagination almost.
Puppy dog.
It lets your imagination kind of do the videoing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think of so many classic examples out there. I mean, for whatever reason, the one that pops in my head is like the Odell Beckham Jr. One-handed catch in the end zone. Watching the video is amazing. When you see one of those like super sports photographers photos of the dude like still in the air with the ball going into his hand, you can all of a sudden appreciate so much more about it because a lot of things in life happen so quickly that they happen, boom, they're done, and you're kind of like, wow, that was cool. But when you see a still image of it, you can see like, you know, in that dog's photo there, you can see all the detail of the dog's, you know, face, its eyes, the duck, the guy holding it, you know, the Odell Beckham Jr. catch. You can see how contorted he is, how difficult it was. You can really appreciate it more.
You just have so much more time to appreciate it, to analyze it, to really look into the eyes, or maybe, you know, like the facial expression or the way, you know, like you're talking about the catch, the way the body's contorted, and you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, you're getting that in the video. You're like, oh my gosh, how did he do that? But then you really look at it, you're like, my goodness, like look, you know, look how he's twisted or extended or whatever.
The video's gone after, like you watch, like most common thing I catch myself doing in a really cool video is like pausing and like holding like at the part I think is cool and looking at a still of it.
Or even if you don't have the ability to pause, you're like rewatch because you're trying to get all those things that you probably could have gotten with just
where
a still.
Stills are great.
Exactly. What do you guys think? So we've talked a little bit, we've addressed it, the iPhone. You know, let's just say, I mean, myself, I'm probably never going to have the time, the resources, or just really just sort of the, like I want good photos, but I'm also thinking to myself, well, there's so many other things that I want to do. I don't know if I'm ever have the time to practice enough to get really good at taking photos. At least I have an iPhone that kind of like, it kind of does a lot of auto for you,
right?
And it does at least a decent job.
And they're awesome cameras.
How are you guys? How many photos are you guys taking with your iPhones? And is there any secrets or tricks that you're using to get really good photos out of your iPhone, or is it more just angles you're using? And
definitely angles. I mean, if you want to rip one with an iPhone, I mean, my favorite is like down low, pointing up at a subject
and getting very close to it.
Very close. Like that's like a common thing that looks really, really cool. If you're gonna do it with an iPhone, it's right there is probably the best way to do it. You're probably more familiar with that than that. I only run my camera, to be honest. Like I don't ever take photos of my iPhone.
That and then also like shoot it 3 different ways. Like you know, shoot it wide, shoot it medium, shoot it tight. Figure out like because you know that each one tells you can take 3 photos of the same scene, but different like wide, medium, tight. And each one is going to kind of tell a little bit different story. And like getting really, really close to something is, I think, one aspect of photography that people kind of overlook. Like literally getting right up in something's grill, whether it's like, you know, somebody's eyes or, you know, like if you're, you know, say somebody's pulling an arrow out of the ground or something that, you know, here we go.
We're going to get a really amazing photo from this podcast. There you go.
We'll post this in the show notes.
Enjoy, everybody.
That's an excellent still. Right
Yours
there.
truly.
That's frightening.
Right up in his grill.
Yep.
Right up in his grill.
That and then like
Here's
you know,
another one.
Yeah, get somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, just the closer you can get to your subject, all that stuff. Like it's definitely going to tell a little bit different.
Jiminy
of
Christmas!
a
Look at
story.
Wyatt over here, just
my
ripping off awesome photos
goodness.
with it. That's an action shot right there.
That is an action shot.
That's
And
an action thinking shot.
Go back to it. So like
like my first
what'd you
iPhone
do?
photo.
You put like foreground in there, so you have like the box, you know. So like the same premises that apply to like DSLR photography or like you know high end camera photography apply in this. Like he got really close to you know something in the foreground, the box, which gets broken up, and then he's got his subject, and then he's got the background.
Yep.
So the same principles of like photography apply whether you're talking about an iPhone or a, you know.
You oftentimes
Yes, there we go.
hear of. Well, I want to talk about. Now I've got
Just
two
got a
things to
sick
talk
wide
about.
angle shot. Now I'm Mr. Photographer over here.
I'm gonna stick with
yourself.
the iPhone because I think actually, I mean, phones nowadays they are like
Yeah,
crazy
they're insane.
impressive. They
It's
come
the camera most
so
people are
far.
gonna use,
It's the camera they're
to be
they're-
honest.
they're most
Yeah.
going to use.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
But you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about you know your gear loadout as far
Yep.
as your photography equipment. You know, and the phone is something you're always going to have on you. It's fast. It's got you know dual purpose as far as like you know if you're using Onyx, you're using it as your GPS. So you're going to have it with you in the field, right? So you might as well use it. And we were talking about your lens loadout earlier and kind of getting to that 200-yard mark. You get that iPhone and you couple it with like a phone scope or something like that, and use your spotting scope. Now you do have a crazy long lens that actually captures really really impressive stuff, and it may not be like that, you know, the super craziest shot that you ever got, but you're definitely going to be able to tell part of the story
still
that you
cool.
wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to before.
And
Yeah.
in my opinion, it even makes looking through the spotter a more enjoyable experience because rather than like
Right.
looking, closing
Doing
one
the
eye and looking,
squinty-eyed thing, yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you're looking at a screen that's just hooked up to
You
like
get
your
to appreciate
spotter.
more of it.
You can capture the image, you can roll video, whatever.
When we
Well,
were,
and not only you, but the person next to you, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're looking through the spotter,
Yeah.
you can be like, dude, I got a deer, right? But I'm like held in
Where?
suspense, or you're trying to talk me into it.
Yeah.
I can just come over and look at it with you.
how
Yep.
many times were we over there where MC Ryan had a phone scope on his spotting scope and one person would spot a deer? Maybe MC Ryan would spot the deer sometimes too, but you'd spot a deer and you'd say, okay, like look over there. And then you could look over on his phone real quick and say, it's right there.
Yeah.
Instead of you being like, here, move out of the way for a second. Okay, I got the spotting scope on it. Ready? And then you get away and you bump the spotting scope,
Yep.
and then he gets on it. He's like, "Wait a minute, where is it?" And you're like, "Hold on, let me get back on it." And you're both like shuffling back and forth. Meanwhile, the deer's looking up, eating up some grass, and looking at like, "Oh, look at those morons."
Yeah,
over there."
yeah. They think they're gonna come in and shoot me, but
Right, see
I'm
ya.
on to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if anybody listening to this hasn't gotten the chance yet to go back on YouTube and check out some of the footage, it's video, but the footage that we got through some Razor spotters with the phone scopes, it's
Yep.
pretty cool of those coos deer. I mean, that we used that footage primarily. Actually, we had a super long lens. Probably we could have had an even longer. There's always a longer lens, right?
Yeah.
But there's always a bigger
That's
one.
life.
Someone's always
You
got
can
a
just-
longer
until
lens.
you-
There's always
until
one
you got a- until you got a lens
Nice
that's
lens
literally
you got there.
sticking. Is that what you say at the in the bathroom now? Hey, nice lens.
Oh,
But you could have a lens, sticking out across the canyon and touching the deer.
Yeah.
But in that case, we actually chose the footage through the spotter,
Right.
in the iPhone. But
Yeah, and the glass quality that you're getting there is better than a lens.
the spotting scope, a really nice spotting
Yeah.
scope becomes
Yeah, I
your
mean, you're
lens,
running a
your
Razor
fancy-
You get
85
way
millimeter
further
spotter.
with the spotter too. Like
Yeah.
McDowell, the OG of optics and technical knowledge
He
about them.
invented
And
the optic.
Big
Mike
digi-
McDowell invented
big
glass.
Digiscoper.
Yeah.
He invented-
You'll get way more out of a spotting scope than you will with any
Right.
big millimeter lens now. Like my 600 millimeter lens is nowhere near what a 20 to 60 Razor would get you.
Right.
Not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
But you also don't get aperture with your spotting scopes. McDowell and I tried to convert this stuff. He did. I could not follow him in
And
his
then
ways.
by filming stuff through the spotter, you even pick up on stuff that you might not have seen. Like you guys got
my
footage
gosh.
of a crazy Arizona monkey
Oh
chupacabra.
yeah. What is that thing? It's
So-
a monkey raccoon badger.
Bear rat?
yeah, yes. I think all those things. Yeah. I comment below if you know the
What
proper
this is.
way to say. I've heard it. Cudamunde, Quadamunde. People call them monkeys.
Zebra
just-
Use
Cabra.
phonetic spelling when you try and tell us, because if you just spell it like it's already spelled
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, we won't know.
won't
Sound it out.
Send us a voice message, voicemail.
Yeah,
That was
please
crazy.
do.
That was crazy though, because we got that foot. We were looking at a deer, and all of a sudden, and we saw like a monkey thing. Yeah, Nate's looking through the footage, and he goes through, and he's looking at this deer, and all of a sudden, out of the very, very corner of the image, this
Monkey
enter
bear.
pronunciation here.
Yeah.
Monkey bear coon bandit.
Rabbit.
Was it like big?
Oh,
They're
pretty-
big enough to
little.
be scared.
It reminds
big.
you
They're-
of.
they're really
Listen,
cool
spiders
animals.
can be
They're
scary.
super cool.
And they're that big.
Yeah.
I think that it brings
It
up another
reminds you
point,
of like
though.
Zabumafu.
You know, you're looking
Yeah.
at something and you get such tunnel vision, and then you completely, miss some other things that are going on. So I don't know. I guess pay attention to your entire field of view and your spotter at all times. 'cause
Yeah.
you never
just
know
be
what's gonna
aware.
walk through.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Every time
Photos,
we
pictures say 1,000 words, so we could keep just saying thousands and thousands
Right.
of word on this
Yeah.
thing. I
Yep.
mean, it's nuts.
It's endless. It's honestly endless. The topics you could go over with all this stuff and related to hunting and photography and everything tied in between.
Well, and the equipment is so good nowadays,
Oh
and it's
my
really
gosh.
so much. The quality that you can get now is so much more within reach of I guess the more common person, or I mean, I think no matter who you are, you have budgetary constraints, but God, it's so good right now.
And it
Like,
doesn't need to be an expensive camera either.
Right.
Like we talked a lot about like the iPhone too. I mean, like one of the coolest things like is having the photo album that sits on your coffee table will never go out of style.
Yep.
Like actually having something tangible to fill that thing up with and like thumb through it and sit there in your rocking chair years and look back on images of a hunt that you went on 40 years ago. That's never going to go out of style. So
No.
when
Yeah.
you're on your hunt, hammer down on that shutter and then fill the air with
Yeah,
blood.
man, it's just cool to go back and look at what you look at how bad we were years ago with all this
Right.
stuff, and see how much we've progressed in hunting and
And
our
sometimes the
tactics
worst
and-
photos are the best ones.
Yeah,
you
so,
know?
dude.
Oh,
some
you
of
can
the,
look back on back in the film days.
Yeah.
But
Back
you-
in the days of digital,
But
20
like
years from
you
now.
love some of that stuff where like now you can take in an infinite number of photos, you get the perfect shot. Everybody's eyes are open. Heck, you can take multiple shots of the same thing on a tripod. And if you merge images and you can make it whatever you want it to be. But
Yeah,
I
you
do
could-
love those old photos where Grandpa Joe's got his eyes closed, the dog's barking, the kid's crying. And it's just like, you're just capturing some of those.
Whoever took
Yep.
the picture was probably like, yeah, that'll have
But
to
that
do.
stuff can't ever be replaced.
Right.
That'll do. But that was also back in the day where at least even on hunting trips, like bringing a camera, that was an afterthought. Like 1 out of 5 trips, you even brought a camera, and the only time you probably snapped a photo is if you got something down, and even that was an
And
afterthought.
grin,
yeah.
baby.
Instagram.
For
Which
the
you know
gram.
what though, I look back very fondly on all those too.
Yeah.
I
Yep. Exactly.
You do.
don't know where I was going with that, but cameras are cool. Taking pictures are cool. Every time we leave a
gripping grids
podcast,
are
Jim,
cool.
I feel like I've got this new invigorated desire to oh man, I really need to get at photography,
Yeah,
or
I know.
now
The
I
only-
need to build a car, and
The only
I don't
problem is
know.
we've done like 150 podcasts by now.
Yeah,
That's
Mark,
like
where does it
150
start?
different hobbies we need to see.
Yeah,
Mark's going to run out of this building as soon as we're done with this podcast and just run out of here screaming and go buy a camera.
so many activities.
Impulsive
Yep.
decisions.
Yep.
I can't wait to see the really nice camera you get. And we'll tote it around in your overland rig that you buy and build.
yeah,
In your
yeah.
garage.
Subaru?
Next
You
to
guys ever
the
rebuild the old
custom
Subaru?
rifle.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Custom rifle, long range hunting, dogs, whatever.
finish the AR in the back.
Well, with that said, thanks
Yep.
everybody as usual for listening. If you have any other questions for these guys or whatever, you should go follow these guys. Again, it's Wyatt Cole Hunt and Erik. Wait, is there a dot in there? Erik.Barber8.
No, I think it's just Eric Barber 8. I have
Mr.
to
Barber
look.
Shop.
It is Eric Barber 8, all one word.
Go follow. Yeah, check them out on Instagram. You can always ask them questions. But if you want to hear more topics on outdoor photography, hunt photography, all that kind of stuff, maybe we bring in some other guests that are big folks that you know out there.
Yep.
That might be cool too. Let us know. But yeah, this one we just want to try out one with the guys we got on house that are pretty
Yep.
dang good too. So
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
That was awesome.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. Again, everybody, thanks, and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.